Good evening, good evening. All right, let's get this show started. So I'm Council Member Sylvina Brooks Powers. I'd like to take a moment to thank the MTA for convening this evening's town hall and the Rockaway YMCA for hosting this important discussion. I also want to thank Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Senator James Sanders, Assembly members Stacey Febra Amato and Khalil Anderson, and my colleague who I know is here this evening in the room, Councilmember Joanne Ariola, for their partnership on this evening's event. The planned 17-week outage as a part of the Rockaway Resiliency and Rehabilitation project will affect our entire community. Rockaway residents live in a transit desert, we know, and we must ensure that we restore and improve subway service as quickly as possible. We also must ensure that our peninsula stands to benefit from this project in the long term. I welcome the MTA's plan to provide free Rockaway subway shuttle across the peninsula through the 17-week outage and $2.75 one-way trips from Rockaway Railroad Station. My office has helped coordinate between MTA and other agencies to ensure we minimize disruptions to the community from this planned construction. For example, we have worked with the Department of Education to ensure MTA construction projects do not impact school bus routes. I'm also working with my local government partners and stakeholders in the community to continue our advocacy for additional transit infrastructure investments for the Rockaway Peninsula. To this end, we have called on the MTA to expand the QM17 and QM16 service hours to ensure that community residents can still utilize public transit to get to and from Manhattan through the day. With no direct A-train service between the peninsula and Manhattan during this outage, residents will depend even more on express bus routes to reach Manhattan. For this reason, we believe that the MTA should extend service hours for these two critical express bus routes during the planned outage. Next, we have urged the MTA to institute cross-honoring of the Far Rockaway Long Island Railroad Station for the duration of the planned outage, to alleviate the additional burden posed on Rockaway residents by the A-train outage. The Long Island Railroad service should be free to shuttle riders during this outage. The Far Rockaway Long Island Railroad Station is a transit lifeline for our community, and we should work to make sure that this option remains available to no additional cost to local residents. We have also asked MTA to conduct a study and continue collecting data on the Q97 bus route during the planned Q97 reactivation. If made permanent, as we suggest, this line can lead to consistent bus service from the Rockaways to JFK Airport via a one-seat ride. To ensure that our community sees long-term benefits from this project, we have urged the MTA to advance accessibility projects as part of this rehabilitation. Specifically, we have requested at least one elevator installation along the A-train stations on the Rockaway Peninsula. Finally, we have called for consistent and accurate reporting on the procurement of local business enterprises and minority women-owned business enterprises to ensure that local residents and businesses reap the rewards of this project. We have urged the MTA to conduct radio and print media outreach to raise awareness about this planned outage, particularly with ethnic media outlets. We also suggested that the MTA partner with the New York City Economic Development Corporation to extend ferry shuttle service during this planned service disruption. We have aimed to capture community feedback and input on this project through these requests, and look forward to working with MTA and all community members here today to ensure we secure meaningful benefits for our residents. So before we get into the presentation, I just want to do a little housekeeping. When you signed in, you should have received an index card with a pencil. We ask that you use that to write down your questions. A member of my team will walk around to collect those questions, where after the presentation, we will read them and the MTA will respond to them. We encourage everyone to get all your questions out tonight. The MTA has been working proactively, meeting with civic organizations, meeting with the community boards, and now this town hall meeting. We want to make sure that you all have every opportunity to weigh in terms of how the MTA can mitigate this much needed infrastructure investment in our community. We are only allowed to be here until 9 o'clock, so we will take questions until 8:45. We will try and get through as many of those questions as possible. We ask that everyone remain respectful of the speakers of this evening, and I thank you for coming out to being a part of this presentation. I'll now pass it to Lucille.
Thank you so much, Council Member. We appreciate your partnership, and we're happy to be here this evening. My name is Lucille Songhai. I am Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations for MTA New York City Transit. I know a lot of folks out in the audience because I've seen you at various meetings that we've been to over the past year and a half that we've been out here talking about this project. Our project team tonight has members of our construction team, folks that will also be here on the ground for the entire 17 weeks while we're out here, as well as representatives from our contractors and our construction and development team who are also here tonight to be able to answer any and all of your questions. To start, we just want to say that we remain committed to helping you understand and prepare for the service changes that will affect your commute. Our public outreach team has been briefing elected officials and have been reaching out to community boards, civic organizations, tenant and resident associations about this upcoming construction since August of 2022. Tonight is our 14th meeting that we are holding here in the Rockaways, and we have some upcoming meetings both in Broad Channel as well as in Oceanside coming up next week. We look forward to continuing to meet with folks leading up to the outage. To let people know about the information that we have about the outage, we have a dedicated 24/7 hotline. That number is provided up there. And also we have fact sheets, FAQs, and other information provided at the front tables this evening. We invite you to take that information, to share it with your friends and your neighbors and loved ones to help you prepare. We also have a dedicated email for this project, Rockaway Resiliency at mtacd.org. And then also, we're asking people to sign up for our project newsletter at mta.info/Rockaway updates. All information regarding the service changes and ways that it will impact your commute are at this address, the mta.info/Rockaway updates. And we invite you to learn more about the project. And again, we look forward to hearing your questions a little bit later. I'm now going to pass the presentation over to Deidre Harvey, who is our local Queens girl and the project CEO of the Rockaway Resiliency Project. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, Council Member Brooks Powers, for having us, and thank you all for coming today. Okay, so again, my name is Deirdre Harvey. I'm the project CEO. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself before we get into the night, so you know that you have an experienced team here. I have 34 years with MTA in construction project management. The first half of that was in line equipment. Line equipment are the things between the stations that you don't see that keep things going, such as pump rooms to get the groundwater out, vent plants in case there's smoke in the system, we get that out as well, tracks, different systems that you wouldn't see. And that was a good lead-in. The second half of my experience is in flash flood mitigation and surge mitigation. My recent project was the Coney Island Yard flood mitigation, which was a comparable size and complexity as to this one. That happened to be recognized by Engineering News Record 2 days ago as Project of the Year. So we're going to work forward on getting this project done for you. Now, Rockaway Resiliency and Rehabilitation was awarded to Schiavone Construction in December of 2022. It's being administered by MTA along with Jacobs, our consultant. Since December of 2022, we've been doing a lot of design, and we've begun our construction. I'll get into those early works and what we're doing. You might have seen us out there on the viaduct already. Tonight, this evening, we're going to go into the historical investment that we've been doing in the Rockaways over the past dozen years or so. The scope of work, we're going to focus on the 17-week outage, but we will mention the other elements of the project as well, which will be completed by the end of 2026 for the entire project. Then we're going to focus on the 17 weeks shutdown, on what you can expect and what your commuter options will be. Okay, so the Rockaway line was built in the late 1800s, 1892, and procured by Long Island Railroad. In the 1950s, there was a massive fire that affected it. So the city stepped in, and they wound up dredging the bay and building islands so that way they could retrofit it for subway use. Now, the ridership had fallen in the 1980s, and for a moment there, they had considered closing the line, all right? We have not done that, and actually today we've even doubled down. Our historic investment, and we're committed to this community. Someone mentioned earlier about the 9,000 riders daily, you know, and that could even come up over time. All right, and we have invested recently. You might have seen the ADA access at Beach 67th Street, completed this year. We have 2 other projects coming up of that nature at Beach 36th and Beach 90th Street, so you'll be seeing that. Other things that you might not be seeing, but know that it's happening, is we have flood mitigation projects at our substations. Our substations give power to so that the trains can run back and forth. We have hardening at Broad Channel, Hamilton Beach, as well as Edgemere. Now, many of you were probably around during Sandy. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, you might remember that we had no service for actually 7 months back then. It was difficult, and we made it through. This picture here shows you what we had to deal with, all right? So that's, the tracks are over open water. There was a full washout for 300 feet, and we had to rebuild it. I had the honor, it was the best project that I've had for my entire career, was getting that emergency project back and getting you back in service by Memorial Day. All right, and since then, we've done roughly $200 million worth of investments in different areas along the Rockaways, including Hamels Y. We fortified that with a flood wall around key things like a substation and signal room to keep things going. And then we also had hardening of critical rooms at various stations along the way. We had a Rockaway wrap-up project. You might have seen it at North Channel Bridge, new fenders to protect the structure. And we had, behind the scenes, things like communication cables and systems that we replaced and fortified. This project is investing $393 million for the various aspects to ensure that the viaducts and the bridges are functional for decades to come. All right, so the project scope of work, I'm going to go over. We spoke of in the 1980s, we were looking about shortchange in this area. Now, what we found out in the 1980s is how important a state of good repair is. Because when the system is not in a state of good repair, you do not have reliable service. So our main state of good repair aspects on this project are the Hamels Y viaduct. The Hamels Y viaduct will actually be removed and replaced. The other main aspect is the South Channel Bridge, which is the swing bridge many of you riders know has to open and close from time to time. The other elements are the Rockaway Viaduct, concrete repairs. When I speak of the viaduct, I'm talking about on the peninsula, from Beach 116th Street all the way to Mott Avenue. We will be doing repairs underneath, and you've probably seen us out there already. We will also fortify embankments, because this is also resiliency against storms. So an embankment is where the water meets the land underneath our structure. We'll be fortifying that to prevent erosion. Beach 105th Street Signal Tower. That construction is underway out there. We're going to be putting a signal tower and a crossover at those tracks. This way, if we ever had a surge again, we can at least provide service from the S train from a broad channel all the way to Beach 105th Street, turn it around, and get you back to where you're going. Hamels Y, I want you to take a good look at the side of the picture here. Now, Hamels Y is an elevated station, elevated structure, and it carries the A and the S. And that's where it splits when you're coming across the bay to the peninsula, going east or west. Every train that comes on or off this peninsula goes through the Hamels Y. Now, this structure, you see the train here. It's on concrete over steel. This concrete and steel is aging. It's going to be removed and replaced for you, so that way it's fortified for decades to come. When we remove that, there's just going to be air. There will be the supports. We're going to be totally demolishing it. There will be air. I cannot provide you service during that time. We will replace it with steel, all new steel, concrete, put your tracks back, put your signals back, and get you back in service. Hamels Y, as you know out here, your residents, you know better than anybody, how the weather and the winds can affect not only us and our skins, but the structure itself. So it had some wear and tear over the years, and we've tried patching here and there, but that's no longer sustainable. This needs rehabilitation. All right, so there's roughly 1,600 feet of structure and tracks that will be replaced, and will go on top of 250 tons of new steel. While that's going on, simultaneously, we will be working at the South Channel Bridge. South Channel Bridge is a swing bridge that opens to allow maritime traffic through and then closes so that we can have our service back and forth. It's pretty interesting. It's also pretty old. So that I have an electrical and mechanical rehabilitation. We'll be gutting certain parts on the inside, retrofitting custom-made machinery, put it back in, and get you back in service. Now, one thing that you need to know is the Coast Guard mandates. Maritime traffic had the right of way. They were here before we did. We put a bridge over it, and so they have the right of way. Heaven forbid, South Channel Bridge breaks down that it can't open. Coast Guard mandates that we leave it in the open position, which is very adverse to subway traffic, not a situation we want to be in. So we need to bring it up to a state of good repair so that it can be used for decades to come. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to quickly touch base on the other aspects of our project. Here's the Rockaway Viaduct. We're preparing the concrete shell that encases the steel skeleton of the viaduct. You'll see markings throughout it if you drive up any block down there, and we're tackling it one section at a time, making our way through. We have repair work below, and we have repair work on top. We've been hitting the repair work on top over the last several weekends, and so then you have suspended service so that we could do the repairs, then we get you back in service. This work will be going on to the end of the project, at the end of 2026. Fortifying the embankments. You remember that picture at the beginning of the slide? You know, Mother Nature had scoured and washed out the tracks and underneath the tracks. All right, so we had built a flood wall to prevent another washout. The other aspect is to fortify the embankment underneath our structure. And we do that with what we call riprap. So you've seen this where stones are next to where the water meets the land, and then so we add more riprap and stones to fortify that and prevent scour on future storms. Then we have Beach 105th Street Signal Tower, the skeleton and the structure of which is going up right now, and then that will support the crossover, the track crossover. So this is a resilient aspect of the job, so that way the trains don't have to go all the way to Beach 116th Street. During Sandy, that was washed out. So seeing as that it's an elevated structure, we'll be able to turn the trains back and keep some service going for you. Now, why does this have to have in such a long-term outage? Obviously, we have a lot of work in front of us. It needs to be done in a safe manner. And because you're removing the structure and replacing it, and that's going to take time, we have to have a full outage. South Channel Bridge also is going to be done at the same time. We bundled this project so that way we wouldn't inconvenience you twice as much. We put it together so we could do as much work as we can simultaneously, and the contractor's hitting both ends of the Hamels Y viaduct at the same time. Okay. Now, we had studied this and gone over it several times to see which is the best approach for you. This was also evaluated by other experts on the Major Construction Review Unit. Major Construction Review Unit is mandated by the state legislature so that when we have some gargantuan project, that we take a good look at it and we make sure that we're doing it in the most efficient way with the least impact to the riding public. The MCRU is made up of engineering consultant firms, as well as the MTA. Syracuse University also sat in on this one. How do we keep the project on track? And yes, we do like puns here. We plan ahead. We've talked about getting the custom parts, the machined parts. I'm just back today from Massachusetts. A couple weeks ago, went to Pennsylvania. We're checking on the precast for the decking. We're checking on the steel members to make sure that they're here on time. There's people working all over the country, including Chicago, Ohio, Florida, to make sure all these parts are coming together in the right fashion. The other thing we have are financial penalties against the contractor if he doesn't finish on time. You know, he would get hit hard with that. He has no interest in that, nor do we. We're going to support him. He's going to work very, very hard, and I've seen them do it before on other projects. The other thing we do is we do bear in mind and have some time allocated during the 17-week outage for Mother Nature, all right, because she could be pretty tough sometimes. So we have some weather contingency in there, you know, not excessive. If she's nice to us, we'll be as finished as soon as we can. And then there's the human resources. We have a local hiring aspect to this project. There's a table outside from the contractor so that we can have local people support. And if there's any DBE companies, that would be great to have as well. And Lucille will go into that a little bit more. So I'm going to pass this on to my colleague, Hugo Zamora, who is the project lead on the 8-train 17-week shutdown.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hugo Zamora. I am a general superintendent working for the MTA in my 35th year, 35 years. Where has the time gone? Yes. So I spent 25 of those 35 years working at the command center for the subway. So I spent 25 years there doing incident management and emergency management handling. So my job was to keep trains moving. So we're going to do the same thing for you while Deirdre and her team is doing hard at work fixing the Rockaways up and making it resilient. Me and my team are going to be out here making sure that you're able to get to your destinations as quickly and as fast as possible. So one thing that we did with the recent project, as you can see here, this was over the summer on the G-Line project where we shut down the G-Line in phases for approximately 9 weeks, a gargantuan project. But at the end of the day, it was very challenging, and it worked. So that we're going to bring that same enthusiasm and those same things that we learned from that project out here to the Rockaways for you folks. So my job will be to monitor the shuttle train and shuttle bus operations. So what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be monitoring the deployment and performance of the buses and trains. So if something is happening on the bus that needs to be fixed, too many buses, not enough buses in a certain hour, or too many buses at a certain hour, I'm going to be here and my team will be here to make real-time decisions as it is happening. Customer communications, one of the main things to get you guys around is being able to figure out how to get from one point to the other. We're going to have a lot of folks out here making sure that everybody is able to get from point A to point B. One of our projects is the signage. If you've noticed that right here at the nearby Beach 67th Street station, for this weekend's project, we have signage all over the place directing customers from the train platform to the buses and back. We're going to be applying the same concept to this project. So you'll easily be able to get from the train to the bus and back and forth with minimal issues involved. So how are we going to provide service for you? So as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be, the project requires that we stop service over Hamels Y and over the South Channel Bridge. So while we do this, our A train service will be terminating at Howard Beach. We're going to have free shuttle bus service running from Howard Beach to 2 locations. We're going to have the Q97, which will be operating from Howard Beach to Far Rockaway, nonstop, via the Nassau Expressway. So the Howard Beach location will be adjacent to the Howard Beach station inside the Port Authority JFK parking lot. Easy access onto the northbound platform where there'll be A service available there to continue your trip into Brooklyn and Manhattan. The second bus provided will be the Q109. This bus will originate also at Howard Beach, but will travel down Cross Bay Boulevard, making stops at Broad Channel, Beach 90th Street, and terminating and starting at Beach 67th Street. Now, while we provide shuttle bus service, I want to put this out there as well because there's been a lot of confusion. There will still be S shuttle train service running between Beach 116th Street and Far Rockaway. So that train will be running continuously 24 hours a day, making the same stops, both directions. So you'll be able to get off at either Far Rockaway for the shuttle bus, or you can get off at Beach 67th Street or Beach 90th Street for the shuttle bus as well. And yes, and it will be free. So the train service, the shuttle train service will be free. And the Q97 and Q109 service, shuttle bus service will also be free. So in addition to this service that we're providing, we also want to bring to everybody's attention current service that we have available right now, the Q52 and the Q53 SBS service, which connects to the A train at Rockaway Boulevard. And as you guys know, those 2 buses continue up Woodhaven Boulevard, making stops also Jamaica Avenue for the J train and continuing up to Queens Boulevard for the M and the R trains as well. You also have use of the Q35 bus, which connects to the Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College 2 and 5 trains. You have the express buses, the QM16 and the QM17 for service into Manhattan directly. And as was mentioned earlier as well by the council member, we will be partnering with the Long Island Railroad at the Far Rockaway station to provide a discounted fare of $2.75. So, you know, the normal bus transit fare is $2.90. We were able to negotiate it down to $2.75, only be available for Far Rockaway customers. So in order to get to that $2.75, you either must purchase the fare at the Far Rockaway station, or you may purchase it via the MTA website app, but you must purchase the round trip. So for an example, let's say you decide to get on at Far Rockaway, pay the $2.75, you will not get the same price if you go to Jamaica, Penn Station, or Grand Central. So the complete round trip ticket to take advantage of this fare must be purchased at the Far Rockaway station. In addition, we are working closely with the New York City Ferry. They will be monitoring the service and adjusting their service as needed. So this is a map of the service that is currently available, in addition to the free shuttle bus service that we will be providing during the course of the shutdown. And again, the important thing here is, folks, is to get those options available. Have the discussion with your family, have the discussion with your friends, with your neighbors. Make that choice that's best for you and your family to get to where you need to go. So the service, this is how we're going to provide it. The S shuttle train, once again, will be running. There will be train service between Beach 116th Street, Rockaway Park, and Far Rockaway. Shuttle train service will be operating about every 15 minutes, which is slightly better than what you have now. The Q97 shuttle bus service, again operating between Howard Beach and Far Rockaway via Nassau Expressway. Peak times will be every 6 to 8 minutes. Midday service every 10 minutes. And then weekend service also every 10 minutes. And again, the Far Rockaway stop will be directly in front of the current station right on Mott Avenue and Beach 22nd Street. The Q109 shuttle bus service operating between Howard Beach and Beach 62nd via Broad Channel. That service will be 4 to 5 minutes during the peak. 8 to 9 minutes during middays, and every 10 minutes during the weekends. So in addition to this shuttle bus service, the MTA has been coordinating with the New York City Department of Transportation to provide updated bus signs and locations to those areas where we will be running our 97 and Q109 service. So part of this, in addition to the work going on with the 17-week project, we will have to be doing work before, immediately, and after. So we're going to have 2 additional outages at the beginning and the end of the project. So at the bookend, beginning on the 17th of January, continuing until January 20th, and May 16th through May 19th from 11:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. Monday morning, we have to completely shut down service on the Rockaway. So for those 2 weekends only, you will have no train service along the Rockaways, but we will have shuttle bus service. So there'll be 3 shuttle bus services running. We're going to have the shuttle bus Q97, going to be running from Far Rockaway to Howard Beach. There will be a shuttle bus running from Far Rockaway to Howard Beach via making the train stops, running via Cross Bay Boulevard, and there will be a 3rd shuttle bus operating also from Howard Beach via Cross Bay Boulevard, making stops to Beach 116th Street. And again, there will be no shuttle train service for those 2 bookend weekends. Additional service plans that are occurring now as we speak, including this upcoming weekend. We're going to have weeknight outages from 9:30 p.m. Thursday until 5 a.m. Fridays from November 21st to November 22nd. The A will terminate at Howard Beach with shuttle trains rerouted, operating between Far Rockaway and Rockaway Park, and the shuttle buses will operate between Howard Beach and Beach 67, stopping at Broad Channel. This will be very similar to the service that we will provide during the 17-week outage. Our weekend outages will be occurring from 11:30 p.m. Friday until 5 a.m. Monday, from November 15th to the 18th, which is this upcoming weekend, and 1 additional weekend next weekend, the 22nd to November 25th, where the Rockaway Park S shuttle will be suspended. The A train will operate normally to Far Rockaway, and the shuttle bus will operate between Beach 67th and Rockaway Park. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of this 17-week outage, and we're going to spruce up the stations along the Rockaway line. So most of the stations have been completely redone over the previous few years, but we're going to give it a nice touch-up, a fresh coat of paint, extra cleaning, anything that we can do to make the stations cleaner and brighter. And also we plan to do major work on the Broad Channel station, bringing it up to a state of good repair. And with that, Lucille, back to you. Thank you, everyone.
So that is our presentation. We are now going to move into questions and answers. Please raise your hand with your card, and our staff will come and collect those cards, both the council member staff as well as MTA staff. Okay. So we do want to keep order. Please write your question down. We will get to every question that we can this evening.
All right, everyone, if we could keep order. Please submit your question. We will get to them. As the staff is collecting the questions, I'm going to just invite my colleagues up for 1 brief minute to give remarks. We have the public advocate is here, the assembly member is here, and the councilwoman. In that order, if you can come up and really quickly just give remarks as they're collecting the cards. And if you'd like to hear the answer to your question, please stay to hear the answer.
Thank you. Peace and blessing, love and light, everybody. First, thank you, council member, for convening all of us, and to my other colleagues who were here for convening us. I know there's a lot of apprehension about what's going on. Thank you, MTA, for the presentation. I wanted to make sure I came out. I don't always come out to all of these, but I know Far Rockaway often feels neglected. I want to make sure you knew that you were not neglected. You have some awesome elected officials to make sure that all your questions are answered. I know that these repairs are necessary. Some of the things that are put out really sound good. My office is going to work with the electeds to make sure that they are put in place. We did see some things that weren't that were promised that didn't happen, like on the G train in Brooklyn. We want to make sure we don't see a repeat of that, and the services and bus services are included. I know my colleagues are pushing for more express bus services like they have in other communities, so we're going to continue to push that. I just wanted folks to know that our office is paying attention to what's going on here, making sure you have the services you deserve, and even more because you haven't had it for a long time. So I appreciate we're trying to juggle both things. Get you better services on that train, but you need services right now. So I just want to make sure we were here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Public Advocate, and thank you, Councilwoman Brooks Powers, for holding this town hall tonight, and to our partners at the MTA, thank you. To our residents here throughout the community, today is a conversation, hopefully that the MTA will listen to, about additional service while we're going through this period of outage. Now, I want to be fair. This outage is necessary in terms of getting the repairs done, but it doesn't mean that we have to be inconvenienced for the 17 weeks. I am asking publicly and privately that the MTA expand and increase bus service on the express buses so that people can get a one-seat ride into the city. We're grateful for the Long Island Railroad stuff. No, that's good. We're grateful for the Long Island Railroad. We're grateful for the restoration of the H train, but our people here in Edgemere and Arvor need and deserve more, and Rockaway Beach deserve more, and that's what we're here to have that continued discussion about tonight. So again, I thank you all for coming out. Let them hear it the same way we hear it as your local electeds on the ground. Let the folks who have the power to make decisions hear your concerns about express bus service tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Majority Whip and Council Member Sylvina Brooks Powers, for putting this together, and for my colleagues here. I stand in solidarity with them in demanding that the MTA provide more express bus service to this peninsula so we can get a direct line from here into Manhattan into other parts of the boroughs. We are a transit desert. So when you have elected officials that are all on the same page, you're going to see things happen. So we are here to listen, but we also know what you need, and we're ready to fight for that. So just don't think that this is an exercise in futility. This is an exercise in getting things done. And we're here, from the public advocate to your state elected officials to Councilmember Brooks and myself, Brooks Powers and myself. We are here. We will listen, but we will make sure that the MTA knows that what you put forth today has to be put in action. Thank you so much.
All right, let's get to these questions. Will you extend the QM 1617 service, and how late will they run? Will you extend the QM 16 and 17 service, and how late will they run?
So the QM 16, QM 17. So we have about 60 buses dedicated to providing shuttle bus service, and we're constrained on the number of buses that we have. So we're trying to run the best shuttle bus service that we can. We don't really have a lot of extra buses, or we actually don't have any extra buses to increase express bus service. We will, however, have a couple of extra buses on standby in case there are crowding issues. We can stick an extra bus or two in there to alleviate that.
Okay, we're gonna, all right, everyone. We want to keep order in here. I will say, though, privately, and as the Assembly member said, I'm going to say publicly right now, we need to look at that. We need to make sure we have sufficient buses that's going to cover the Rockaways. So you shouldn't say it in a way that it's just like, if we can, because we have a planned outage, and the MTA must be prepared for that service to shut down. So that's the expectation from this community. I'm going to ask again, if we could just keep it down. There's a stack of questions here. Will riders be able to use the express bus at a reduced cost? I will say that myself and my colleagues have requested this as well.
Yeah, no, there's no plans to reduce the fare on the express bus. We will, however, be offering a discounted fare on the Long Island Railroad, which will be a much faster way to get into Manhattan than the express bus. As Hugo mentioned, $2.75 each way.
Sorry, just point of clarification. The railroad is just for Far Rockaway. The
Right.
express bus goes up the peninsula.
Yes, understood. So, so we do. So, what we'll be offering is we have the free shuttle train along the peninsula, and the $2.75 each way fare on the Long Island Railroad. So, whichever station you normally travel from, you'll be able to take that free shuttle train to Far Rockaway to get the Long Island Railroad at that reduced price that's less expensive than the subway is.
I think the MTA should revisit and look to see and explore if there's a way to reduce that cost as well. Why is it necessary to close the A altogether? We know that answer because we did a whole presentation, so I'm going to skip that. Can you increase ferry service from 108th? Can you add a Rockaway to Manhattan direct route that stops at 59th Marina and services the east side of Manhattan? Will this actually be completed on time? And I don't know if this question is really for the MTA, but it says, can you issue a remote work recommendation to eligible residents so that companies can see the city requesting a reprieve and ease return to work office mandates? I don't know that you can answer that, but the question that you can answer is in terms of the ferry service.
Yeah.
And also the timeliness of this project.
Okay, yeah, I can answer on the ferry service. So we've been working closely with the NYC Ferry, which is a project of the New York City Economic Development Corporation. The MTA doesn't run that, but we have been in conversations with them. They have assured us that they have enough room on the existing ferries to be able to handle the additional riders that we expect to take advantage of the ferry service. So they do not see a need to add additional ferries at this time.
I'm just going to ask that we refrain from screaming out questions and use the cards. We're going to only address what's asked on these cards.
But yeah, we will continue those conversations with the NYC Ferry people.
Okay, with respect to the timeliness of this project, we do have a 17-week outage. We are starting 1 week earlier than we had originally planned in order to maximize our time out there and get done as quickly as possible. As mentioned before, we do have a large penalty against the contractor if he runs late, and we always remain humble before Mother Nature, as she could have an effect on this as well. We're going to be working very diligently to finish within the 17-week outage and prior to beach season in the area. Memorial Day.
Why are these repairs being done 12 years later? Substations, signal towers, and viaduct were all damaged by Sandy. Did the MTA run out of funds? And were the Sandy repairs temporary?
The repairs we did at Sandy were not temporary. That repairs, we're not redoing any of that work. The damage Sandy did at the time was quite extensive throughout the whole area. It was $4 billion worth initially, and we've been continuing that with much more funding, as I had gone over during the presentation. We have a lot of assets at MTA to protect. So we've just been continuing this work over time between the emergency repairs that we did initially with protecting our assets at Hamels Y, continuing the work with the wrap-up project, as well as the massive investment and work that we're doing now. The new signal tower was not there before, so this is new, and we are protecting more and more assets as time goes by. It's just that it's a huge project. We have a huge system. There are many things to protect, and it takes time to execute that.
Why are compressors being replaced instead of being converted to electrical operation? Why was work done on the viaduct if it's being torn down? If the, sorry. If the Y needs to be replaced, what about the rest of the L? Will you reopen restrooms built by the Long Island Railroad? Isn't there already a crossover?
Okay, so, it's very thoughtful.
Okay. Julian.
I could repeat the question and do the answer in that card if you want me to do it, because we have a lot to hit in the next 45 minutes. Okay. All right, so the compressor is being replaced. We're actually building a new compressor room at the Beach 105th Street Signal Tower. This way it's at an elevated area and not susceptible to a surge. The existing one's on ground level. We're building a new one elevated to be resilient. Why? To convert to electricity is another huge, massive project that might be done down the line. If you look into the next capital program, we are looking at doing that. But right now, you'd be out much longer. That's not the scope of this project. All right. The area that's being torn down is to replace it. If the Y needs to be replaced, what about the rest of the L? So the rest of the L, it depends on the area of the deterioration. We are doing repairs along the rest of the L. The steel on the rest of the L is not due for repair because it's not deteriorated. And we are doing small repairs here and there on the L. I'm not in charge of the Long Island Railroad, so I'm not sure which restroom you're speaking of. Isn't there? And there's not a crossover at Beach 105th Street. So we're building a new one.
Okay. I'm a construction worker. I already leave 30 minutes early to get to work by 6 a.m. The shuttle bus to Broad Channel/Howard will add 40 minutes more to my ride. So there's a three-part question. First, why can't we have an express bus from Mott Ave straight to Rockaway Boulevard in the morning for a 2-hour window between 5 and 6 a.m.? Second is for van drivers. How much will they charge for a straight ride from Mott Ave to Rockaway Boulevard? And the third point is, I do not want to go to Broad Channel/Howard Beach. I've had bad experiences at both these stops during snowstorms, and the buses take forever, plus racial slurs thrown at black riders.
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
Sure.
Yeah.
The
The first of the three parts.
Sure. The first was, why can't we have an express bus from Mott Ave straight to Rockaway Boulevard in the morning for a 2-hour window between 5 and 6?
Okay. So, again, as I mentioned, we're constrained on the number of buses that we have. We've spent a couple of years planning out the bus service, and we've come up with a plan that we think is the best service we can offer given the resources that we have available to us. We have to provide service to Howard Beach. There are some people who are traveling to Howard Beach, particularly if they work at the airport or they might be taking a plane from the airport. So we need to run a shuttle bus between the Rockaways and Howard Beach. If we were to run an additional nonstop bus from Far Rockaway or from the Rockaways to Rockaway Boulevard, that would require additional buses that we just don't have. So, really the only option we have is to operate the buses to Howard Beach. Also, going to Rockaway Boulevard is longer distance, so that would also increase the number of buses needed. And the second part was?
How much will they charge for a straight ride from Mott Ave to Rockaway Boulevard? This is for buses, I assume.
That's on, oh, is that the van service question? Yeah, I can't answer about van services.
Okay. And the third part of the question was bad experiences that riders have had at Broad Channel and Howard Beach during snowstorms.
Okay, so at Howard Beach, the buses will be stopping in the long-term parking lot at JFK, which is a well-lighted area. There will be lots of buses, and there'll be lots of people there. It should be very safe, and we're working closely with the Port Authority to make that pickup and drop-off area work as well as it possibly can, with plenty of signage and so forth.
Sure. In terms of safety, I also wanted to mention, as you saw here earlier, they didn't stick around to join us this evening. The police presence. Transit District 23 will be is fully aware of the project, and they have committed to providing their services all along the routes. The District 23 lieutenant also stated that they're going to be involved directly with communications with the local precincts, the 101 and the 100, to make them fully aware as to all the concerns of the community. So obviously, if there's any concerns that you have with the transportation, if you feel unsafe right away, call 911. Everybody's certainly aware of this project, and they all are committed to providing safety for the commuters.
And I also want to add that Hugo will be here with his team, with vests, with visible vests on, and they will be traveling between all of these various shuttle bus locations. So they'll be at Far Rockaway, they'll be at Broad Channel, they'll be at Beach 90th, they'll be at Beach 67th Street for the duration. So if there is something that you see that makes you uncomfortable, if there's something that you just want to give your suggestion, walk up to Hugo. He's a very friendly guy. Him and his team are happy to listen and to really take your suggestions. But again, if you feel unsafe, if there's something that you want to let us know about, there will be teams of MTA employees out at all of those places, and we'll be keeping monitor on all of those things. So thank you for that question.
The next question is around subcontracting and whether any of the work is going to be subcontracted out. I know that's something that was touched on in the presentation, but maybe one of you could quickly reiterate that.
There are many subcontractors on this very large project. We have Schiavone is a GC or general contractor, and he has many subcontractors on this project. He also has a table in the back for if there's, and especially disadvantaged business contractors are more than welcome to participate on this project, and you can reach out to the Schiavone table in the back to get further information. Lucille also has other contacts that we can facilitate this.
So we do have a local hiring component to this project from MTA, so that stands at 20%. And then also we have a 22.5% disadvantaged business component to this project. So if you know any DBEs, we invite you to put your name, sign up with our folks in the back so that you can get more information. If you were a union worker, a skilled laborer looking for work, we are more than happy to speak with you. We want to make sure that folks on the peninsula have an opportunity to work on this project. It means something to us, and we have to be able to show that we've made those efforts. Very much like the council member said, the elected officials, this is a very big component of things that they've been pushing to make sure that there's representation for folks from the peninsula on this project, and we're going to make that happen. So if you have any questions about potential job opportunities on this project, there is a table outside of this room, and you can sign your name up, and you'll be receiving more information. So thank you.
Thank you. There's a number of questions here, so I'm going to go through them and try to bunch so we can address them one by one. So I'm reading here. The MTA has a lot of nerve announcing outage days after closing the customer survey. Why are Far Rockaway riders always inconvenienced? Why is this plan for the dead of winter not to inconvenience beachgoers? What about the residents? Most of us are traveling to Brooklyn and beyond, so why is the shuttle going to Howard Beach instead of Rockaway Boulevard? I'll stop there.
All right, so the reason for the outage now is that, again, this is a project that has been presented to what is it, the MRCU, which is a governmental New York State agency that was put together to take a look at these type of projects. And they came to the conclusion that this is the best way to tackle this type of work. Again, we're trying to keep everything in as tight a time frame as possible, to work as quickly as possible, and to be the least impactful as possible. If we don't do it this way, you're looking at 2 or 3 years of weekend shutdowns, very inconvenient, and we don't want to do that. We want to come here, do the work, and have the shuttle service and the A-train service run as normal as possible. So that's why the reason why that we tackle this project in this 17-week period, and it's the best way to move forward. What's the other part of the question?
The other question was around why shuttle service is going to Howard Beach instead of Rockaway Boulevard.
Again, I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. Howard Beach offers the best area to stage our buses and a very convenient location to have the customers go from bus to the train. Having extended if we have to extend the service to Rockaway Boulevard, it's going to require more buses, more time, and it's going to be more inconvenient for you, the rider, to get there. So the shortest route possible that benefits everybody is to Howard Beach.
And I also want to note that Beach 67th Street is an accessible station. Howard Beach is also an accessible station. So for folks that are disabled, that need to stay mobile, us putting our operations where there are accessible train stations works best for everybody. Rockaway Boulevard currently, right now, is receiving an elevator, so, but it is not ready quite yet for this project. And so that's also a really big component for us, that public transit serves everybody, both abled folks and folks that are disabled as well. And so that is another big component as to why Howard Beach serves the best for our operations.
And also Far Rockaway is also fully accessible as well.
Okay, a few more questions from this one card. Why does the Far Rockaway A get held by dispatch for the bridge, the Rockaway Park shuttle, the Lefferts train, C train connection, F train connection, and then threatens to go the F line so frequently, or express made to local without warning? So I'll keep going. Why does the South Channel Bridge even need to open when the bridge allows the cars to travel over doesn't? And why is there no stop considered for a shuttle bus between Beach 67th and Beach 90th Street? So if we could just speak to the bridge, the South Channel Bridge opening closures, and as well as the shuttle bus along.
Okay, well, the South Channel Bridge is owned by the Coast Guard, and the priority is the ships. So even though the bridge is closed most of the time and the trains go over it most of the time, the priority is the boats and the ships. So when we get a call, or when the dispatchers get a call that a ship or a boat is approaching, the trains must stop. And that is a Coast Guard rule, and it's not MTA related. So again, the boats have the priority, so that's why we have to hold the trains at those locations whenever a boat or ship approaches that location. And now I do want to say that it's not random. The Coast Guard does have a schedule where they attempt to keep the boat traffic together at some points, but unfortunately the ship and maritime traffic takes priority, and we have to stop the trains when we're told to by the Coast Guard.
And also the shuttle service down the peninsula. There was a question about that.
I was just going to answer about, he was asking why the road doesn't have to open, and that's because it's higher. It's higher above the water, and so the boats can go underneath it.
Right, the Cross Bay Bridge is higher, so this doesn't necessitate an opening of the bridge. But the marine traffic and the train tracks are at such a level that when the boats go by, the trains have to stop and the bridge has to twist open to allow the boats to pass. So the shuttle service was
There was a question about shuttle bus service specifically down the peninsula, in addition to up and down.
Okay, well, we are providing the shuttle train service from Far Rockaway to Rockaway Park end to end, and it's going to be making every stop. In addition, you do have the Q22 bus, which will be remaining in service, so that's an additional bus that you currently have available that does run across east and west on the peninsula.
Okay.
And the stops itself, the stops on the bus are just going to be strictly on the train. So that's one thing I also want to mention. Don't get on the bus and expect to stop 3 or 4 stops in between. The buses will be making stops at the train stations only.
Will this project include improvements to all existing train stations? And I'm assuming that means all train stations here on the peninsula.
Right, we do have plans to make refreshments to those stations. These stations were recently, not recently, but done within the previous 10 to 15 years. So they are not 100% brand new, but they are still fairly new. You can see the lighting is nice and bright, the paint is nice and bright. So we're going to take this opportunity to revisit those stations and do any touch-ups that we can. We're going to deep clean the stations. We're going to provide a fresh coat of paint if it's necessary, make any additional repairs to the stairways and the entranceways that we need to.
I also want to add that part of making sure that there is still train service on the peninsula means that we're not doing any work that will impact the stations. So being able to run that shuttle train means that folks can make the different connections that they can make, but we're also not triply inconveniencing customers by making it impossible for them to take the train on the peninsula. And as Hugo said, that shuttle train will be stopping at every single subway station here on the peninsula. So if it's easier for you to take that shuttle train all the way to Far Rockaway, you can do that. If you can get off at any of the stops that make sense. But, one of the things that the council member brought up was about, pushing for an ADA station. We are excited that Beach 36th Street and Beach 90th Street are slated to be and to receive ADA improvements through MTA's newest capital plan. But it takes on average about 16 months to put in a new elevator. And so that far exceeds the 17 weeks that we will be here. And so usually when we're doing ADA improvements, it means that sometimes we have to single track, and we have to do things that, again, impact service on the peninsula. We already recognize that we're inconveniencing you with this project. We're not going to triple down on that. Our plan is to get out in 17 weeks and return resilient service to you.
The next question is, how is the MTA working with New York Presbyterian to make sure we can get to work on time? The MTA has always discriminated against Far Walkway for 30 years. We need real service. So maybe here we can talk about the outreach the MTA has done with employers or other community groups.
Absolutely. So we're happy and proud that we've been out at a lot of different meetings over this past fall. We've been to a lot of NYCHA tenant and resident associations and other cooperatives here on the peninsula. We've heard from a lot of folks that say, listen, I take a 5 a.m. bus, or I take the 5 a.m. train to get to work. One of the things that Hugo has really talked about is making sure that folks in the early morning get to where they need to go. We recognize folks need to get to work. We recognize that kids need to get to school. Today, we actually met with the principals at Beach Channel Educational Complex. We listened to them and heard a lot of their suggestions about various ideas that they have to make sure that students are getting to school on time. We'll be continuing to take a look at those things, not just during the outage, but even before then, to make sure that we're really giving everybody the best service that we can during this outage. So I appreciate the feedback. Thank you for that. And I know that it can be very frustrating. I want you to know that our team, everybody up here, everybody sitting at that table, everybody in the back, we recognize that because of this inconvenience, we have to do our utmost to make sure that the service is right. And if it's not right, we're going to make it right. You have our commitment. We are here. We're not going to leave folks stranded. Hugo and his team will be here every day. No one's going to be sitting in an ivory tower somewhere downtown making decisions. Folks will be here. I understand your frustration, and we appreciate your feedback. I'm happy to talk with you after the meeting. I want us to continue with the
Yeah.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And in the interest of time, we're going to keep going on with the questions we have here. So neighborhoods around the Rockaway Peninsula will be affected by an influx of folks wanting to park vehicles. Can the underused areas under the subway be converted into parking?
Well, I will say that some of those areas underneath the elevated line do not belong to MTA. They belong to either private ownership or they belong to various city agencies. As a transportation agency, our main priority is getting folks to where they need to go using transit. Our priority is not cars. And I know that that can be difficult to hear, but again, for us, you know, it makes more sense for us to make sure that we're giving you robust service instead of, you know, cluttering up the road with more cars and trying to, you know, cut deals with various folks, you know, that have private ownership underneath that elevated line.
The next question is around ferry service. Will there be an additional ferry terminal established in Far Rockaway? If so, where is it proposed to be, and how long would it take to build it, even though it may be temporary? I know the MTA is not responsible for ferry service, but if there's any comment you could give on conversations you've had with EDC.
I'm going to say that we are going to continue to talk with EDC. You have heard from the various elected officials this evening about the various asks that they're going to continue to push for, EDC being one of them. We're happy to work with our stakeholders to see what can be done. But as of right now, EDC has said to our teams, and we've been talking with them for over a year and a half at this point, that they believe that they have sufficient capacity to get folks to where they need to go, both current riders and then folks that may want to take the ferry as a particular option. We are going to keep monitoring during the outage, and again, talking and working very closely with EDC. If we see that something needs to change, we will make that evaluation and take the next step that needs to be taken.
Another question around cars and parking. How will you deal with double parked cars blocked by buses?
Well, we're always working together with the Department of Transportation and our our road crews, our supervisors on the buses side, to monitor traffic conditions. If they see anything that's ongoing or troublesome, they will report it and we will take action with it.
Okay. We have a question here focused on resiliency. So the question is, what is the plan in case of a hurricane?
Not sure if the question is during construction. Obviously, the resiliency is that we're doing all of this work in case of a hurricane, a storm surge. So that is our plan, the mitigation we've done thus far, as well as what we're doing now. And the staging of this work is not during hurricane season. This way, that won't hold us up. We'll be prepared for the next hurricane season.
So this is a three-part question, some of which is touching on the ferry again. The first is, will there be coordination between the ferry and the train? The second is, will there be extra parking at the ferry dock? And the third is, how about a ferry to 34th Street and Roosevelt Island? So I know we already touched on some of these ferry points, but if there's any conversation specifically around parking or the shuttle service to the ferry that you've had with EDC, I know that's something that the council member has discussed directly with EDC and MTA and is one of the asks out of this, if you folks could speak to that.
Yeah, we'll take those suggestions back to EDC and have a conversation with them about those. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, the next question is around local hiring. So if you're doing local hiring, will proper coursework be given to people that need it to participate? I'm assuming in the district. Train service is causing management issues. Can the NTA hire us for any other things aside from construction? I'm overhearing it may not finish on time because there isn't enough money or because it's too complicated.
I mean, I think for hiring, again, if you are interested not just in a job for this project, but if you're interested in MTA jobs, we have information in the back. There are a lot of different jobs and a lot of different ways that people can be employed with MTA, and we really welcome any and all skills. So if you have questions about getting an MTA job, you can see our folks in the back. If you have questions about how to get on a job for this project, again, there's information in the back. We invite you to go and talk with the folks from Schiavone.
Lucille? Oh, over here, sorry. Lucille?
Yes.
I just wanted to add real quick too, I know you touched on it, but the question asked if there was going to be proper training given. So as you mentioned, at that back table, well, there's actually two back tables. There's the contractor table, which can talk to you specifically about jobs directly related to this project, as well as subcontracting opportunities. But to the right-hand side of the doorway as you walked in or as you walk out is the MTA table. So there will be all of the testing opportunities coming up between now and the end of the year for civil service opportunities. So it isn't just construction-related jobs, it's civil service jobs as well. So please do stop by. Also, this project is something that we're very, very proud of. It's one of the first projects that the MTA was able to initiate a local hiring goal on as part of the Biden administration's Build It Back Better initiative in 2020. So this is one of the first 4 projects where we do have a local hiring goal on this. And we had a jobs event right here in this same auditorium back in the summer. And we had over 80 folks, close to 100 folks come here to find out about direct entry and early entry programs for unionized apprenticeships. So that was a great event, so hopefully you all knew about it, and those of you who were interested came out. But again, Lucille, just wanted to mention there are civil service opportunities, so you don't have to be a laborer or a construction worker in order to find out about jobs out there.
Thank you, Joe.
Here's the next question. Given the potential disruptions caused by additional buses on the Rockaway Peninsula, which could impact small businesses, does the MTA have a plan in place to assess the effects on the small business community?
So we're always talking with our small business owners, and we know that as this is a beach community and folks do rely on that revenue from beach traffic, there are over 10 million people that come to the Rockaways to come to the beaches, but also to shop here. That is absolutely something that we care about. We know that businesses is really the lifeblood of a beach community. So we're going to continue to talk with small business owners about this project. A lot of them, I eat at Batesy's and I eat at other places on the peninsula. And so our folks are going to be supporting the local businesses here while we're deployed out here and making sure that folks are spending money and keeping the money here in the Rockaways.
Next question is about express bus service to Lower Manhattan. I know that express bus service is something that the council member and the other electeds here have explicitly asked for, and it's something that we've spoken to here a bit. But if we could just you could reiterate your position on express bus service and your response to that.
Yeah, again, it's a constraint that we have on the number of buses available, and we just don't have the buses to add additional service beyond the very robust shuttle bus operation that we're going to be operating. And regarding extending the express bus to Lower Manhattan, we actually took a look at that. It would go from Far Rockaway to Lower Manhattan. It would be about a 2-hour bus ride. So we think that our free shuttle train and 275 Long Island Railroad fare is going to be much faster and 15 cents. Well, actually cheaper than the express bus is, and even 15 cents cheaper than the subway.
Okay, here's a question with a few different parts. The first part is, why can't the project commence during the warmer months? I think we may have touched on that already. Rockaway is already geographically isolated from the rest of Queens. What are plans to enhance and improve service moving forward to the Rockaway's rapidly growing population? And then the last part here is, will there be a discount of fares? What about students with Omni cards? Will the LIRR honor their cards? I'm worried about reliable service. So if we could just touch on the timing piece, the plans to enhance service moving forward for Rockaway's growing population, and third is discounted fares.
Okay, yeah, regarding the ferry discounted fares, that again, that's New York City EDC sponsors that service. So MTA does not operate that service. I can't really speak for them on that.
Sorry, just to clarify, this is for the LIRR.
Oh, okay, Long Island Railroad, yeah. Right, and there was a question about student MetroCards with that, right? Yeah, so we'll take that back and get an answer for that. And I think the timing piece Deidre already addressed. We do, looking at weekly ridership here in the Rockaways. During the summer months, the ridership is higher than it is during the non-summer months. And so by doing this work now, we're inconveniencing fewer people. And also, if we did this during the summer months when ridership is higher, then that would be just that many more people getting on the shuttle buses. So this will be, you'll be getting a better service this way than if we did this during the summer and risked the shuttle buses getting overcrowded with beachgoers.
The last part here is around improving service as the peninsula's population continues to grow.
Yeah, we're always monitoring our service levels and ridership trends, and we make adjustments where needed and where resources are available.
The next card here is on express buses, so I'm going to read it, and I believe that MTA may have already addressed this point, but just to have it in the record. Can you expand service on the QM15 express bus that currently service Howard Beach to Manhattan? There are well over 20 buses that service the neighborhood, which could extend their service into Rockaway. These buses are being depoted in Rockaway anyway. So I believe you've touched on that point, but I just want to make sure we have that as input from the community. So next question, does the MTA have full funding for this project, or will some of it be passed on to the community?
The funding for this project is to build what we had just described, and yes, we are funded.
The next two questions on this card are about timing. So first, does the MTA guarantee that in 17 weeks this work will be completed? And will the cold weather impact the timeline during inclement weather? And how has the MTA factored this into the 17-week plan?
Okay, and that's why it is 17 weeks, is we do have a factor for weather within there. Yes, it is going to be cold, and we are going to bundle up and be ready for that. The contractor has worked through very difficult conditions before. I've been with him hand in hand in the past, so he will be ready for working in the cold weather. The things that set back construction are more along the lines of high winds and various snow conditions, which can have an effect on the schedule. As mentioned earlier, we do have weather built into the schedule, basically a day a week. If Mother Nature treats us extremely poorly, that could affect the schedule. We're going to be working diligently to ensure that we get everything humanly possible done and as quickly as possible. All right, and so that's the only curveball that I could see. In the meantime, the contractor is working diligently to get all of the material and supplies here ahead of time, and we'll be prepared to work. We'll be working 7 days a week, every day, day and night shift.
Thank you. Next question. Will passengers have to pay an additional fare to get on the LIRR?
Yeah, so I think that's been answered already. Again, it'll be $275 each way to purchase the Far Rockaway ticket at the Far Rockaway Long Island Railroad Station.
Apologies for the disruption. Next question, why not make the Rockaway ferry or subway and the LIRR cross-honored for free?
Okay, so in terms of the cross-honoring, we're doing the free shuttle train again, the $275 fare for the Long Island Railroad. So that's essentially the same thing as cross-honoring. You're getting your trip from your station here in the Rockaways into Manhattan for $275, slightly cheaper than the current subway fare.
There's a question here that I'm not sure if the MTA can speak with, but just to get it in the record, can you please make the South Channel Bridge higher and a fixed crossing? The bridge ruins the A service. It's unacceptable.
To raise the bridge higher is a gargantuan task because the train can only traverse at such a level. You would have to raise and elevate all the structure, basically like from Howard Beach through Hamels Y to get it high enough that the boats can go underneath. So that would be like basically rebuilding the whole line. Right now, we're talking about a 17-week outage. Such a rebuilding effort like that is not within the scope of this project, would cost billions of dollars. We can keep your service going now by rehabilitating the Y and the South Channel Bridge.
Okay, I'm going to try to go through some of these, and there's some duplicate questions here. So for those that we've already addressed, we can move on. The first question is, can you guarantee that the QM 17 hours will be extended? I think we've been over the request that's come from the council member and other elected offices around extension of that bus service. What improvements will be made to the street plaza in front of the Far Rockaway Mott Ave station so that our transfer from the S shuttle to the bus is comfortable and convenient?
Yeah, we're coordinating with New York City Department of Transportation in terms of our bus stops, and we'll do whatever is necessary to make sure that those bus stops serve their intended purpose.
Why does the A line not have express service at its outer reaches like all the other outer borough lines in the city? Is there a plan to make our travel times faster after the work is done?
Yeah, it's really just the configuration of the tracks, the 4-track section where we have express and local service that ends at Euclid Avenue, and then we have essentially a 2-track line from there to here, to both to Far Rockaway and to Rockaway Park. So not really possible to run express service, and that's just how the line was built all those years ago.
We have a few more questions and comments here on the ferry, which I'm going to read just for purposes of having that on record, but I think the team here has already addressed the ferry points. 1, can a ferry line be added through Edgemere? And can the MTA please work with New York City Ferry to increase ferry service during 17-week shutdown, at least 2 ferries per hour? Unless there's anything that you folks want to repeat on that, I think we can keep going. Have you considered having 2 shuttle buses, one going to Beach 90th through Beach 116th and another to Beach 67th to Far Rockaway / Mott Avenue? As you know, shuttle buses in the past increase commute times. And is there any opportunity to engage ferry services to go with more frequency at 2 times per hour? Again, the ferry point we've addressed, but if you could address that first point.
Yes, I think the question is about shuttle bus service extending to Beach 116th Street and Mott Avenue. Yeah, again, that would require more buses, and as you've heard me say several times already, and I'm probably getting tired of hearing, we don't have enough buses available to add to what we've already planned. But there are lots of other options. There's the Q52, Q53 SBS, which do run further along the peninsula. So those are options. There's the Q35, and we do have the free shuttle train operating along the length of the peninsula.
Okay, there's a question here about communication and outreach from the MTA. So why has communication of the shutdown only come 2 months before the shutdown when other trains were shut down, as the L train was years ago? There are areas that have access to other trains with seemingly little consideration to community members' voice, where most families are working class. How will you do better to maintain better communication?
So, Hugo, I see Lucille's in the back.
Got you.
So,
Thank you, Joe.
just to reiterate, and I know Lucille mentioned it in the beginning, we've been out here on the peninsula for 2 years educating folks or attempting to educate folks. I see some of the community board members and some of the stakeholders here in the audience that we've met with on a number of occasions already. So it isn't 2 months before the outage. In fact, we're ramping it up 2 months before the outage, and we're meeting, upwards of 20 times between the summer and when this outage goes into effect in January. So there's been no shortage of efforts, and along with that jobs information event that we mentioned over the summer, including all of the opportunities that residents along the peninsula have to sign up to get information. There's regular emails that go out about any of the work that's being done that impacts folks' paths of travel, existing paths of travel for cars or pedestrians, and even some of the emergency work that Deirdre alluded to along the viaduct outside of the work that's going to be part of the 17-week outage. So there's been a whole host of community outreach efforts, including all of the work with our elected partners and officials to get word out, utilizing their networks to exponentialize our message. So it's slightly disingenuous to say that it's only been 2 months before the outage when we've been out here for 2 years. What's that? Sorry.
If folks have more questions on that, you could please talk to some of our staff there and write down. We'll make sure.
So I'm not exactly sure how those two connect together as far as outreach and as far as track training goes, but just hold on, hang on, let me answer the question. So there's two opportunities right now outside in the back hallway there for you to talk to folks about jobs. One, civil service opportunities that don't require any training or track training whatsoever, where you could talk to the MTA about existing exams for civil service opportunities between now and the end of the year. We also have our contractor table out there where you can find out about jobs with the contractor. If you were to get hired by the contractor or work your way through an apprenticeship program to eventually work on this project or another project, because we were looking to create meaningful pathways to middle-income jobs, you would then get that reciprocal training once you're hired.
Thank you for that. Just in the interest of time, I apologize. We have a few more questions. I want to make sure that folks who wrote down their questions have the opportunity.
Hello. We're going to just keep order. We have a few Hold on. We're going to keep order in this room. We got a few more questions left and only a few minutes left. The MTA could speak to you afterwards if you have additional personal questions, okay?
Will the express bus fare be reduced for us during this time?
Yeah, I believe we already addressed that. The express service is considered premium. There are no plans at this time to reduce the fare.
Okay, I'm going to go through these together. Will the Q97 run along train stop lines? Will the shuttle bus service from Rockaway to ferry service? I believe we've already addressed that. And where will buses park along Far Rockaway with increased traffic and population?
So buses will be staged at Howard Beach. They're going to make their trip, and when they get to Far Rockaway, they're going to line up on Mott Avenue, get passengers, discharge passengers, and continue on the way. So the Far Rockaway side is going to be on Mott Avenue. The Beach 67 side, right on Rockaway Beach Boulevard, right in front, adjacent to the train station there, the street is large and long, plenty of spaces for buses. That's where we plan to stage the buses from the Beach 67 side to Howard Beach.
Okay, two-part question. Did Far Rockaway get a commitment for jobs since we won't have our trains? I believe that folks here have already spoken to job commitments, and if you have further questions on that, please come to us afterwards. And then second is buses for schools. I know we mentioned this at the beginning, but if Lucille or someone else from your team could speak to the coordination with school buses and how this construction will or will not impact school bus routes.
We don't anticipate any interruption to school bus operations. Again, the locations where they do the construction are carefully planned and planned in such a way to reduce or minimize traffic interruptions. So there is not going to be any interruption to school bus operations.
Is it possible and likely that the MTA can provide special buses for our school children who depend on the A train to and from schools?
Again, the shuttle train will be running between Rockaway Park and Far Rockaway, and I understand that for some folks it may be even better because now we have some students that get on the shuttle train, they travel up to Broad Channel and then transfer to an A train to come back to the eastern side of the peninsula. So having the shuttle service in place will eliminate that transfer and have a one-seat ride on the shuttle from one side of the peninsula to the other. And it's free.
This is our final question with the cards we have here. Can you explain how the $2.75 LIRR fare will work at Far Rockaway? Will Omni be accepted if Omni/Metro cards are not cross-honored? Why?
So the railroad has its own fare system. We have the vending machines that are purchasing Long Island Railroad tickets. So exclusively at the Far Rockaway station, you'll be able to purchase from the vending machine a Far Rockaway ticket for $2.75. Long Island Railroad does not use Omni, and it will be separate from the Metro card and the Omni operations from New York City Transit. So in order to take advantage of that fare, you must purchase the ticket at the Long Island Railroad station only. Again, you can also use the MTA app to purchase the ticket. The app is geo-fenced, so you must be in the general vicinity of Far Rockaway in order to purchase the ticket, and that's how it is. Strictly on the property, the vending machines for Long Island Railroad, or via the app on your phone in the general vicinity of the Far Rockaway station.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone for all your questions. If you have additional questions, please feel free to come up and we can address them one by one in the interest of time. We're going to be wrapping up now. Does the MTA want to say anything before concluding? And the council member as well will be coming up shortly.
So thank you so much, Julian. And we just want to thank you for staying here, for coming here tonight and listening to us. And we will be staying out here in the Rockaways up until this outage begins. We have meetings that we'll be attending next week. So we hope to see you out here. Thank you so much.
Feel free to do so.